Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the third part of our replatforming series. Today, we are going to talk about how to approach discoveries of replatforming projects. And I'm joined by my team over here again, Abhishek, Dhariwal, Panshul, Khurana, and Sabreena, Khursheed. Welcome back, team.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Prateek.
Thank you for agreeing for this extended run of our replatforming series. I'm equally excited to kind of go through and talk through that journey of replatforming. In the first two episodes, we spoke about what is replatforming, why to replatform, why organizations or what organizations should keep in mind while replatforming. Then we spoke about how to estimate those projects, both from technical, non-technical perspective, various aspects of replatforming projects. And today we are going to focus more on approaching discoveries, how to discover and do the discovery of these replatforming projects when they come to us, right? So let's get started. Maybe starting with you, Panshul, right? I mean, what's the starting point for these discoveries? Both technical as well as a non-technical part of these discovery. Where do you start as a development team, as a design team for these discovery projects?
No, you've already given the estimates. You're done with the initial setup of the project, and now is the time to analyze the project from a detailed standpoint. You'll have to understand the project from their current platform architecture as well, and then start thinking about start mapping the architecture with the replatforming approach. Let's say you're moving it to Drupal. Let's say you're changing the approach from monolithic to headless architecture. Now is the time to understand how is that movement going to be. So I think the great starting point would be to get on a call with customer, and maybe you can come up with a schedule as well. And according to that schedule, you can then start talking about different things. So I'll take an example over here. In one of the recent projects, what we did was we started planning the discovery session. So there were around 6 or 7 discovery sessions that we planned. And the first discovery session was to start with the discussions around the designs and then take it ahead from there. Then the discovery session 2 was more around the backend, understanding how is the current content architecture and how is it that they want us to create the content architecture on the new platform, on the new site. So this is where we start analyzing the system from different standpoints. And then and after the discovery session, we then start creating those components. Then we start mapping those components with the new platform. So that's how we go. The first one in this case was, of course, the design. We talked about designs. The second session was more about the content architecture. Then the third was more around some of the complex features, such as if I talk about the recent example that we developed for the decking manufacturer, we came across a really complex implementation over here, which involved some complex calculations as well. And this particular component was a progressive component developed in their previous site. So we started understanding the component as well so that we can map this particular complex implementation onto the new site as well. So this is the starting point where you understand the current system. And of course, you took some assumptions as well while you were sharing the estimates. So now is the time to get the clarification on those assumptions, get on the call with customer, raise more questions, do more interviews as well, so that you're able to get answers, detailed answers, and then refine your estimates later.
Got it. So, and how does these discoveries executed? Like, I mean, what do you typically do when you say like a series of calls, right? What happens typically in these calls?
So what we generally do is before we get on a call with customer, we create a questionnaire. This questionnaire document can be created on a simple Google Doc, or it can be a simple spreadsheet as well. So what we generally do is we collate all the questions from all the team members. All the team members, they start analyzing the system. It can be done over one call itself, or you can take your own time, start analyzing the system and come back with the questions. You collate the questions in this particular Google document, and then you share it with the customers. And then when you're over the call, there are 2 ways to conduct the discovery sessions. One is that you drive the discovery session. You start taking those questions up, and one by one, you start discussing those questions. The other way is to request customer if they can give us, they can give you a good overview of the system. They can start with, the design walkthrough as well. If we take the example of the design walkthrough that we did, that was the first discovery session that we did for the recent example. So there are 2 approaches. One is that you come up with some kind of flow and share it with the customer, or you request the customer as well to come up with some kind of flow that can be discussed over the call. And this is how the call goes. And maybe you end up getting answers to the questions, or maybe you'll end up having some more questions that will be followed up after the call. So yeah, that's how you approach these sessions and make them fruitful so that you are able to analyze more things and you have better understanding after the calls.
Got it. No, makes sense. So starting with that plan, breaking down what you want to talk about in each of these workshops, right? I do recollect, I mean, obviously in this example, we were starting with those designs, but I guess there are a lot of these brainstorming sessions that also happens, identifying the personas and things like that when we get into these UI UX strategies or discovery calls as well, right? I mean, and then apart from those technical discoveries over here. So a question to you, Sabreena, right? I mean, what strategies or templates do you typically use during these discovery sessions or workshops, and how do you prepare for them?
Basically, as we start with the discovery. So either with the discovery workshops where we talk with the stakeholders, as Panshul mentioned, then basically we strategize that what we discover, we strategize, we make a plan for that. Suppose we have there is a design discovery, there is a UX/UI discovery, there is a content discovery. We strategize that feature out, like we plan those things. If there is there's a technical discovery we have done earlier, so we plan a document, we document that, we did the existing framework, it is there, we review that, do the technical audit on that, and just create a product plan from that what we discover. So we are strategizing those things. And then similarly on the content architecture, we create information architecture. And then if there is a UI UX discovery was done, maybe by us or by other team, or we collect those components or templates or wireframes. Maybe there is not the finalized design, but we still go with the whatever the wireframes we have. So we strategize that. And finally, we come with the planning. We create features, like we prioritize features based on the, like we talk with the stakeholders, okay, which features we want to prioritize right now based on the estimates. Like when we prioritize some features, we add high level estimates. High level as it, because right now, like when in the estimation phase, we estimate we have a low estimate, we have a high estimate. But when we prioritize the features, we add high level estimations, and we can refine it later when we went into the actual development phase. So we plan those things, like prioritize features, talk with the stakeholders, create an MVP plan, and then the final project plan where we have the sprint planning, other things. So those steps we take, discover, then strategize those things, UI, UX, content, then technical strategy, then the planning, feature prioritization, MVP plan. Those things we follow step by step so that we can come to some conclusion.
Got it. So do you, like, what tools do you use? I know Panshul already mentioned like the spreadsheet and a little bit of that. Like, do you use like tools like Miro board, Confluence and things like that to capture these things and then collaborate with the customers?
Yes, it depends, like what customer is comfortable with. Like in some projects, earlier we used Google Docs, but in one of the recent projects we used Confluence. We created Confluence Docs that was much like it depends. Like for us, it was more organized. We had one Confluence space where we will create documents for everything, where there's a technical architecture for that. Then if there's a UI UX document, we create that, or Google Sheets or Excel sheets, we collate everything there so that it's all organized.
Got it. And I'm assuming, obviously, for our audience, right, we are primarily focusing upon these virtual discovery workshops. I guess, like in person, when you are in the room having those whiteboards, it's kind of a different experience, and then how to kind of run those workshops as well, right? Especially when you get to the UI UX strategies and the overall broader technical roadmap or a product roadmap kind of a discovery workshops.
Yes, it is. It does definitely. Like it needs a lot of iterations. Basically, we are going to the rough sketches, then through the wireframes, then through the actual designs, or maybe the reference sites. So there are a lot of iterations in that process.
Got it. Okay, so maybe over to you, Abhishek. Right? How do you typically communicate and collaborate with other team members internally within your teams? Like obviously, there's a design team, technical team, QA team. Maybe other UI UX SEO team as well, right? So how do you typically communicate and collaborate with these team members and also the stakeholders on the customer side? Because even sometimes customer teams are also large, where somebody else is responsible for the design versus somebody else is responsible for technical decision making and all, right? So how do you approach those things, Abhishek?
Yeah, correct. So Panshul and Sabreena has already given a glimpse about how the discovery phase is executed, and Panshul has specifically spoken about the workshop that been executed with the clients to get the insights of the requirements. So typically during the discovery phase, the collaboration, the communication, the collaborations are crucial for aligning, the expectations and addressing the unknown business processes and requirements. In this phase, we initially, initiate a kickoff meeting where our technical architects and business analysts and other stakeholders, ensure that we understand the requirements with all the angles, right? So there may be some business constraints that has to be captured well. So in these kickoff meetings, we bring everyone into the fold of, in a same fold, and they align on the same goals, right? Apart from executing these kickoff meetings, we also execute discovery workshops, right? So within the discovery workshops, what we do, we were, the stakeholders and, our design teams and developer teams all comes into one place, and they brainstorm on various ideas, various solutions, and potentially explore the architectural options for upcoming application. They also contribute on identifying the risk areas, and during this workshop we also do some technical grooming, the user stories that we identified during these exercises. Our approach is basically a hyper collaborative approach where we use various mediums, communication mediums like Zoom for video conferencing. We use the email for messaging, and for instance messaging we use tools like Slack, etc. And we manage our project management using Jira platform, and that gives a broader visibility about the progress of the project. As Sabreena has already explained about the Confluence, that's our basically knowledge hub where we capture all the information gathered through these workshops are well captured in the Confluence, and then we later on use these information to understand the broader aspects of the projects. So in that way, we approach this discovery phase in a very collaborative way.
Got it. And I'm assuming, Abhishek, like while we are working on these documentation, user stories, or these notes and through these various platforms and tools, right? These are like in a collaborative fashion, and they are kind of shared with the customer team as well as we built it, so that and we get those frequent reviews as well and validations as well based on our understanding post-discovery.
Yeah, correct. So we use Ask Nicely for getting the constructive feedbacks from the customers.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, so that's an important exercise as well. So obviously Ask Nicely to kind of get an overall feedback, but then even on these documents, we can kind of do an inline commenting and collaborate in a collaborative fashion, right? I mean, taking their approvals as well on these requirements and various other the integration. And I know, Sabreena, you pointed out earlier, like we prioritize the features as well again. So maybe is this also an opportunity for us to re-estimate the project? Like, because now you have a detailed understanding, Sabreena, about what's needed, probably some wireframes as well, if that is happening in parallel or maybe to the discovery or just starts after the discovery phase as well. But then is that the opportunity to re-estimate the project as well and highlight any risks or validate the risks that we kind of may have sensed during the initial estimation phase, and then is it the time to kind of look at that?
Yes, exactly. Because while doing the feature prioritization, we again go to those features, like because we have clear understanding of those features, we can re-estimate as in like whatever range we have given earlier, are we within that range or not? If it's exceeding or if it's below, we can communicate to the stakeholders. There are some potential risks, like if there is something related to the feature or related to the migration or content incompatibility, those risks we can highlight that time when we are doing the feature prioritization. That time we add basically those estimates to the features. We give those estimates and also communicate to stakeholders if there are any potential risks. So obviously that gives us opportunity to re-estimate those things at that point of time.
Okay. So there are these feature prioritization workshops where you come in, talk about the value versus the estimate and the cost for that particular feature, and then reprioritize it based on obviously technical and then the value for the customer project and all. But coming back to you.
Yeah, just on top of that, like maybe while we are prioritizing the features, maybe we get more ideas. Like if there are some feature and we can give more suggestions to that. Like when we are more clear about the requirements, maybe we can suggest more things to the customer or to the stakeholder if we think so. So that things can be added at that time also. Maybe to make it more better as per the current standards, that things can be done at that time as well.
No,
Yeah.
that's an excellent point, Sabreena, because I think during initial RFPs or initial discussions, obviously you are aware of the broader vision of the stakeholders, but then now this is our opportunity to connect with the real folks who are on the customer side, who knows what they want to build and all, and understand their business in detail. And that's where like recommending the features that make sense for their business. I think that's where our business analysts, technical architects kind of come in along with the UI UX strategy team to ensure that we meet those goals for the business as well as for those individuals who are responsible to maintain and build that particular platform.
Yeah.
So maybe a question to you, Panshul, and slightly an extension to what Abhishek also responded about the collaboration and communication aspect. Have you experienced any challenges, or rather, what challenges have you experienced during this collaboration with the customers in this remote discovery exercises?
I don't think that everything that we are trying to do over here is going to be an easy job for us, and there are going to be complex scenarios and complex situations, and it is okay because we are dealing with humans, and that's what makes us humans as well. Because there are times when you are able to explain something, but there are times when you'll have to take a different route to talk about something. So we have come across a lot of situations where we have seen that there are a lot of pushbacks. Let's say we are saying that this is the time frame that you have allowed us to build something, but we believe that to be able to build a better solution and a solution that is scalable, that would go on for a longer time and would require low maintenance, we recommend that why don't you spend some more time right now and build it in a better way, instead of going with a quick solution. In such scenarios, we see that there's a pushback because of the timelines that, let's say we have to launch a website in 2 months, and only because of this feature, it is taking, let's say 2 weeks extra or 3 weeks extra to launch the site. We understand that there are some goals that you have to achieve. We understand that there are some timelines that we should respect. And in such scenarios, what we generally do is we again go back. We understand the importance of the timeline. We go back, we analyze the component or the complex scenario or the situation again, and based upon the pushback or based upon the feedback that we have got from the customer, we start analyzing the situation and we see that if there is a middle ground that we can come up with. And definitely in such cases, there's definitely some middle ground. And if not, then of course we'll have to suggest that given that you have allowed to build us to allowed to build this particular component in this particular time frame, we'll be able to do it in this 1 week itself. Or let's say if you are allowing us some more time, we'll be able to come up with a better solution. So that's the trade-off. And in such scenarios, there's definitely some middle ground, and we keep that upfront. We mention everything in the document. We detail things out in the document so that they can go back, come up with the final decision, and then we can talk about whether we go with route A or route B. So in such scenarios, there's obviously in some cases a special call or a separate call required for this particular situation itself, where we have to align on something. We have to be on same page on something and then come up with the solution. But that's the route that we take. We understand the request. Based upon that, we go back, analyze everything again, come up with the new timeline, come up with the new estimate, and then share it with the customer, and then take the discussions ahead from there. So there have been cases where we have come across these situations, and that's how we handled it.
No, makes sense. So obviously there's an opportunity to revalidate the cost and the efforts, and then going back to the customer, doing those trade-offs as well, because sometimes things are wish list, but they're not really possible in the timeline and the budget that is there. But at the same time, what's important for our business, we try to adopt that as well. This kind of also, Panshul, reminds me our last night discussion as well. I know, there were this recent proposals. I think Abhishek, you, Panshul, and I were involved around rebuilding this platform where they had like 40 odd websites, I guess, built on one backend system. And we were kind of debating over here, Sabreena. I think you were not involved in that, but then like Abhishek was proposing going the Drupal route. Panchul was recommending going the decoupled route as well. So we're kind of brainstorming between us internally. Even after submitting the proposal, to be honest over here, we are relooking at the technical approach. So we not only kind of I guess, Panshul, the right thing to say is that, there are times when we should relook at the solution as well, the initial proposed solution, which could be very different than the original one at times, because you realize you learn more about the requirements as well, like in this case, right, where we are now thinking about a decoupled approach, presenting that as an option as well to the customer. So have you seen or come across any examples in your discoveries where you had to present something very different than what you was initially proposed, or you've learned something which is very different than our assumptions, and then we have to kind of rethink the way we are going to approach the rest of the discoveries? Are there any examples like that?
To be able to, talk in detail about this, I'll share the recent example where, again, there was a discussion around what is the kind of architecture that we are going to implement over here. I think this is similar to the scenario that you just mentioned, that where there is one person who's recommending the monolith approach and one person who's recommending the decoupled approach, and they come up with their own understanding, they come up with their own solution as well. In some cases, then go ahead and create the diagrams as well to convince that this is the right solution for this particular scenario. So this is pretty much okay, and it is okay to revisit as well, because every time we go through the requirements, it's like getting clarity with time as well. So let's say I'm going through the requirements for the first time. I'll create the understanding for the first time, and based upon that understanding, I'll try and implement the solution. We are engineers, and it is okay to rush towards. Sometimes it is okay to rush towards the solution as well, but sometimes it is really important to take a step back and think about it, whether you have provided the right solution for it or not. Whether this is going to solve the actual problem, is it addressing the problem statement? It is important to analyze the problem statement from that particular perspective. Then you go back, think about the solution again, and you say that, oh, this is something that I missed last time, or this is something that wasn't shared last time when customer gave the full set of requirements. And now there are few things that are added to it, or there are few things that are added or edited to the initial requirements. And based upon this, I think that there's a new solution that we should recommend. So there are times when we'll have to relook or rethink about the requirements, and based upon these requirements, we'll have to come up with a new solution. And in such cases, we have seen that there is a complete turnover of the architecture as well. And there have been such scenarios in past, and I'm sure there are going to be scenarios in future as well. So it is always best to stay prepared for such situations. And I would say that you should always take time before recommending a solution. I understand that you are an engineer and you want to rush towards the solution, but sometimes it is not the correct way to do it.
No, makes sense. Makes so much sense, right? It's important to kind of keep on checking, keep on validating the solution at the right times, especially during the discoveries as well, right? But then, and maybe a question to all of you, right? When you are proposing the solutions, even if, let's say, it's a module or an integration, are there conflicts sometimes within the team as well, discovery team as well, around the approach or the requirements, and with the customer as well, where the customer wants something, you are proposing something else? And how do you manage those conflicts with the customer as well? Maybe to all of you, if you recollect an example like that.
Yeah, I could not recollect, but yeah, this, like, I don't have a specific example right now, but yeah, during during the discovery or while implementing as well, we come across such conflicts, like maybe we can do this in this way, but maybe the other member is not comfortable, I can say, but they can propose some other solution. So that happens. Like, first we have to settle down within the team what is better and what is performant, basically what is optimized. We have to go for the optimal solution, and we have to consider the timeline also for that. Okay, if you're going with this solution, this is performant, this is optimal, but how much time it is taking? Do we have that enough time or not? So that discussion happens first within the team, and when we come to some conclusion, then only we convey that to the stakeholder. Like, if we are changing the approach, earlier we discussed, okay, we are going to implement this. Maybe a small example I can give, maybe regarding the page structure or the layouts. I recall one example when we have to create a page, they want it a structured or a semi-structured page, like they want more control on the page, like that. So there was a scenario where they want control over the page, but they want some sections of the page where there is no, like, there should be no change. It should be completely structured. Tomorrow contender shouldn't come and they will alter the structure. That shouldn't happen. But at the same time, they want some areas where they want to do the customizations. They want to remove the block, add a block, that kind of thing. So that time we figured out a solution. Okay, maybe we can make it as a semi-structured kind of layout. Earlier, we were just going with a structured and completely unstructured page or a flexible layout. We came up with a solution. Okay, how we can do it? We can maybe make a semi-structured kind of layout. We inform the customer, okay, you can do like this, make a decide upon the section which is completely structured, and then we give the option to make it we can add components, blocks, or remove anything. So that thing within the team as well, there were conflicts around, okay, what approach we should use, whether we should go with the layout builder or we should use the site studio that is provided by Acquia. Shall we go with that thing, because that also provides a semi-structured kind of thing? We can do both approaches. So that things happen, and within the team, we basically check, okay, what should be the optimal, and accordingly we convey to the customer, okay, we are going with this. Are you comfortable with that or not? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess these conflicts are healthy for the team as well as for the project and the solution, because obviously this ensures that we are double checking on the things that we are recommending as well, and then finding the best or the optimal way to kind of reach the customer goals and vision over here, right? Okay, that's very helpful over here. Next, maybe, right, does these project discovery processes differ between a small and large replatform projects? How would you approach for a small project versus a large project? Maybe, Panshul, if you want to add more on that, is there a difference in the way or the approach that you would do, or is it just about this less number of discovery, or is it just the duration that would be lesser?
I think in such cases, Prateek, the approach would be the same, but there are differences in the kind of processes that you are going to follow. So, for example, if we talk about the first discovery session, the design walkthrough, if this is a large-scale project, then you'll have to analyze all of the designs given to you, and definitely it is going to take some time. Maybe you'll have to divide this the first discovery session that is related to design in multiple parts. Since this is a large-scale project, it would involve good amount of screens. It would involve a lot of flows as well, because when you're going through the designs, it's not just about the color of the button or the placement of the button. It is also about what happens when we click on this particular button. Is it is there some other screen that is already existing in the designs, or do we have to work on it? Do we have to go back to the customer and request to create the design in such scenarios? So in such cases where there is a large scale project, you'll definitely have to look at things from using a magnifying glass, I would say, because you'll have to get into specifics. You'll have to understand all the details and then come up with the solution, then come up with your questions. So definitely for a large scale project, you'll have to take some time out. You'll have to spend more time to be able to come up with the correct assumptions, correct technical solutions. But when it is a small scale project, maybe you'll spend some less time compared to the large scale project. But yeah, I think the approach would be the same over here. You'll again go through the design walkthrough session. You'll again go through the content architecture walkthrough session as well. But it is going to take lesser time compared to the large scale projects. And the other scenario or the other situation where there's a difference between large scale and the small scale project is the differences between the integrations. And we have seen that there are good amount of integrations in the large scale projects. For example, there could be multiple analytics tracking tool, whereas just for a small scale project, there is just Google Analytics that you have to manage. But we have seen that there are multiple tracking tools integrated in the large scale project, and you'll have to understand the complexities of these integrations as well. In some cases, there are CRM integrations as well as part of these large scale projects, whereas it's just about maintaining the data on the site itself, on the CMS itself, when it comes to the small scale project. So definitely there are some differences between large scale and small scale. The approach for the discovery session would remain the same, but you'll have to detail things out in case you are working on a large scale project. Whereas when you're working on a small scale project, it is not going to take a lot of time. But yeah, you'll spend some time on the things. You'll be able to come up with a solution faster as compared to the large scale projects.
Makes sense. Abhishek, what's your opinion on this, right? How does these or how long this typical discovery phase lasts, right? In terms of weeks, months, and then what factors influence this duration?
Yeah, so the technical discovery phase typically may last, anywhere from a few weeks to several months, right? As Panshul has already highlighted, right? It's a typically a project size and its complexity, right? Which is a driving factor of the extended discovery timelines. So, for example, the factors like overall project scope, the need of detailed content strategies, analytics, and SEO planning. As Panshul has also highlighted, the complexity of the designs and the user experience requirements may further influence, the discovery timelines. One of the additional aspect is the hosting evaluation. So sometimes we have to considerably research around the perfect hosting solution for a given project scope and performance capabilities and in the future scalability aspects. So looking at all these all of these sort of things, we may need to evaluate for better hosting options. So all these things has an impact on the discovery timelines.
Okay. So do you also do like this infrastructure specific discovery workshops where you're trying to understand the requirements and then recommend the infrastructure options?
So let's say you have to implement a multi-site architecture. So there is a possibility that whether you are using Drupal's inbuilt capability of implementing the multi-site architecture versus you can use some proprietary solutions. Maybe that is AQS Site Factory or maybe the platform, the Pantheon's upstream. Yeah,
Pantheon's customer stream.
These are the differentiator you get to know when you are executing these sort of discoveries.
Okay. That's a really key point over there, right? Obviously, it's the solution. While there's an application side of it, it's important to align on this hosting or infrastructure side of things as well. I recollect, maybe Sabreena, you would recollect for the OSCHR work, right? I mean, we had to work with the United Nations ICC, was it? I think International Computing Center, where OSCHR wanted to kind of host their application in their in-house environment. And I think we had to do a lot to kind of make it Drupal friendly in that case, right? So that's a really important point that you brought forward, Abhishek, over there. All right. So moving on, right? Maybe to you, Sabreena, right? What are typically the expected outcomes of this technical discovery phase? We have talked about how we approach, what kind of workshops we will do and all, right? And broad level goals, but then are there any assets and that or the outcome that would be shared with the customer or you promise with the customers, and how do they guide the subsequent replatforming development process as well?
Yeah, that's correct. Like after these discoveries and strategies, obviously we come with some outcomes because we are setting a baseline, and based on that we are coming with some outcomes. So obviously, like when we do this discoveries and strategies, there will be a final product plan for us that will be ready for the design, development, and the launch. So we are creating that roadmap. We are having a transition from the initial, whatever the existing framework we are, and what is the new framework we are. So we have a product plan, and we also decide upon what is the platform we are going to use. As we discussed earlier, it's not necessarily we will just go in the Drupal, or maybe we follow the decouple approach. So we will come with that, a proper plan, which will be the platform that we are using. So that is there. What are the strategies like during UI UX strategy or content strategy that we follow? What is the outcome of that? Okay, what will be the content workflow? What will be the moderation workflows for that? That plan will be there. In terms of technical discovery, we will be having a architecture, technical architecture ready, where we have all the content types, taxonomies, medias, all mapped. So that will be the outcome of that, what we did earlier during these workshops. And then we will have a final, like as I said, the features, the final MVP plan we have, the release plan we have, that all we have based upon these initial discoveries and sessions. So we will have a final outcome there that will help us giving a smooth transition from the initial phase to the current phase where we are ready to launch, like basically launch as in for the development and the site readiness. So we reach to that point where we are ready to start. So this will help in future as well, because if we have other replatforming projects, so we can use the same thing, like what we follow there. It will help us to basically understand other replatforming project. We can follow the same plan for that. Obviously, it helps in that process. We have a definite outcome out of this. Without this, we can't directly jump into the development and all. So this is what it helps us.
That makes sense. But one of the things that we have not really talked about right now or so far is the continuous discovery aspect. Are there times when you're not able to discover everything upfront, but then getting into starting with the implementation and doing those discoveries in parallel? Is that a common flow that you do or experience in your replatforming projects?
Yes, definitely. Like it is a common thing. Like as we do the development sprints, there is a continuous discovery that is going on. There could be some features that we couldn't we don't have enough information, or there is something that we discovered later. So we did POCs while the development sprints. So there is a continuous discovery going on, that maybe, as I mentioned earlier, like there could be more suggestions that we gave in terms of feature. There was some requirement, but we, while working on that, we found, okay, it could be more better if we do this way, or we can add those features to that. So there is a continuous discovery going on while the implementation also. And this is something that we keep aligned, like within the team and with the customer as well. Okay, this is what happened and what we are suggesting, or what could be the better outcome of this. So this is a continuous process that goes along with the implementation sprints.
Got it. But are there things that are must have in the upfront discovery? Because I can understand like some of the features can continue to evolve, but then how do you contain the solution, the architecture? Are there must have things that you really need to know before kicking off the development during the upfront discovery? That you must really lock into that. It could be a plan, it could be an architecture, anything of that sort.
Yeah, there are must-haves, like whether in terms of implementation, in terms of infrastructure as well, or how we go with the flow, like in terms of infrastructure, what we are going to use, as Abhishek mentioned, what platform we are going to use, or what infrastructure setup we are going to use, what hosting service we are going to use. So there are some must-haves that we should know before going with the development. So these things we have there, the must-have things in terms of infrastructure, or the hosting we are using, or the platform that we are using, or there's a Pantheon directly. We are not using anything in between where we push our things. So there are some things in terms of infrastructure setup, and then the implementation that comes in between. Yeah.
Okay. No, and I guess Panshul, you wanted to add on that as well.
No, I think Sabreena mentioned pretty much everything, but just one thing that I would like to mention, and this is something that I discussed with Abhishek yesterday. So we were analyzing this one of the projects, one of the case studies yesterday, and Abhishek came up with a question saying that, do you really know about their current platform? Is it proprietary, or would you be able to get the database and codebase extract from their current platform? And that was a great question, right? Because if we don't have the access to their current platform, we won't be able to do the discovery properly. We won't be able to understand the content architecture or the complexities involved. So it is really important sometimes to share the must-haves with the customers as well, so that they also know that this is something that you definitely need, so that you can come up with correct solution or the correct numbers. And in such cases, and thanks to Abhishek over here, because thanks for saving me, because I was not able to think about it, and maybe I would have come up with the wrong number over here, or maybe wrong assumptions as well. But yeah, in such cases, there are times when you'll have to think about all the components, and do you really have the access to these components so that you can look into them and then come up with the correct solution.
Yeah, one thing came to my mind, like, because must-haves in like if we have a multi-set setup or a multilingual setup, that time also, like, we must have we should have that thing in mind. Okay, like, are we going to use like in terms of front-end layer, I'm just discussing here. So are we going to use one base theme, like if it's a multi-set setup? So they want one base theme where there will be the common things will be at one place, and they just want the branding kind of things in different sub themes. So that kind of architecture they want, what was in their existing site. Suppose there is already a project that's a multi-site project, but how they are handling it, they are maintaining different themes for that. And when we are replatforming, we are suggesting, obviously, we will suggest the optimal solution. We can have the common things at one place and then just create sub themes from that, which will just maintain the brandings and all that setup. So for that thing, we should have must have what is in the initial system, how they are doing that. And when we're replatforming, what we are going to do. Are they comfortable with that, or they just want different themes? So those things we have to consider, even with the backend thing, not only with the front-end layer, even in the backend layer, how the code base is maintained. Is it separate code base or a single code base? And then we are having the multiple site, or for multilingual setup again, like for that thing, how we are going to handle that. So these are the must-haves that we need to know.
Yeah. So I guess like, I think you pointed out a lot of things, like, I mean, the core architecture, the choice of platform, the choice of hosting, largely these major choices around major features or major integrations are kind of a must have to kind of get in, because this can kind of make or break your solution. I guess you don't want to get into a project midway and realize that, oh, this needs to be redone as well. And I guess, and Panchul, I want to bring up your point, right? I mean, arriving at a wrong number, I guess when we estimate, there is no wrong number. I think it's an estimate, I guess. But then, yes,
Absolutely.
there is a right budget that we need to align on to meet the customer needs, right? So I think it's important to get to that budget, which gives customer what they want as well, right? And I think that's the key of to the pre-sales estimation as well as to these discoveries as well, to realign on that, revalidate on that again and again to kind of arrive at a solution. I guess we are nearing to an end of this particular episode, but then maybe a one broad question, and we'll go round table with this question. Okay, so maybe starting with you, Abhishek, first. How do you see, or how are you leveraging AI in your discoveries, or how do you see it changing in the future as well with the new AI tools coming up?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and we are using AI on a various steps at the during our discovery phase. The one important thing is while you are understanding the client's requirement, right? Sometimes there are complex business cases, and it is really required to understand all those steps, right? So AI can help you very well in that case, because it brings up broader prospects when you are giving the right prompts and giving the requirement. It's really break down the requirement in a small chunks of understandable pieces of the requirement, which get the better understanding and insights of the businesses and processes, right? And another way where I generally use AI is to generate the relevant wireframing diagrams, the process diagrams, and the flow charts, relationship diagrams. These are very helpful when visualizing the things and how the data is flowing in the system. So it gives a broader understanding of the entire system. So we use AI very extensively.
Got it. Yeah. Panshul, how are you using it, or you plan to use it?
So being a backend engineer, I generally use AI to understand the current platform, and I pose the right question to we'll take the example of ChatGPT over here. I pose the right question to ChatGPT saying that this is their current platform. Let's say the client is the customer right now is on Craft CMS. So I'll pose the question to ChatGPT saying that, why don't you tell me some of the important features of Craft CMS, and how do I map these features to Drupal? What are the differences, the key differences between Craft CMS and Drupal? And that's where my analysis starts. And slowly I take it ahead to when it comes to the discovery sessions as well, discovery session planning as well. I take it ahead in such a way that could you give me a quick structure of the discovery planning or discovery sessions, and we can add as many details as possible to these prompts so that we can get the complete flow or complete structure of the session. And we can also, get a high level structure of the session as well, so that we can go ahead and add the details. So my usage has been restricted to understanding the backend, understanding the system, and then going ahead and creating the structure for discovery, so that I can be productive at my discovery sessions.
Okay, no, that's great. That's great. Using it to that advantage, learning more about the platform over there, right? What about you, Sabreena? How do you see it affecting the discoveries?
I think, it's similar, like as Abhishek and Panshul mentioned earlier. We in the previous projects, we hadn't used it, but now we're extensively using AI in our day-to-day lives, whether it's a simple thing. Also, we asked ChatGPT for that. And even like now for the discovery sessions and for the implementation, like if we want to understand some complexity, or if there is some other framework, like if there's some other framework that is coming in and we want to understand some logic, maybe, we just give the prompt to the ChatGPT. Okay, this is the requirement, and we can understand the complexity from that. And we can, like, what's in our mind, the solution, we can propose that to, like, we can give prompt to ChatGPT and they can give the better and optimal. Like I usually use that if I want to make my solution more optimal, more performant, how can I do that? Like by giving the code. I have some code in maybe in JS or something, but I can give that, okay, I have this code, I want to do this thing, but I want to make it more performant. How can I do that? Even while the discovery, if we want to suggest something to a client, okay, you have used this thing, but maybe we can use it this way. So that thing's giving the proper prompts, like we are extensively using AI in that case. And in future also, like for the implementation, while implementing as well, it will definitely help us, and it is helping.
Look, no, those are some really interesting use cases and ways that you highlighted, right? Maybe you are not asking me, but then I will also respond to this question, because I would love to kind of share what I think about it as well, and what I've been seeing and learning as well. I think obviously, AI is not a replacement. Like it's not about just kind of replacing the entire discovery and then the value that technical architects or the solution engineers like all of you kind of bring to the table. But at the same time, I've been already seeing the examples and some of it at Axelerant as well, where we are trying to experiment with it. But I would love to see a scenario where, like Panshul that you mentioned, it helps us prepare for those calls, like discovery templates, act as an agent, right? I mean, act as an assistant to us, right? So not seeing AI as a tool, but then as an assistant to kind of even brainstorm the things. Hey, what about this? What about that? Hey, what can I miss, right? If I talk about it, what can go wrong, right? So that could help kind of further form of the discovery. Maybe going in that, getting on our discovery workshops, recording all of it, through the transcripts, maybe it generates the user stories out of it automatically. It goes and sits into the Jira with, let's say, the automated workflows, right? I mean, like we'll get Michael to do that as well, like make workflows, creating stories from the transcript, getting into the Jira. Jira has plugins which actually, based on those user stories, again reaches out to Cloudy or ChatGPTs or other AI models to even bring the implementation steps as well, and then generate the documentation along the way, right? So, and which then can further be carried forward to the implementation stage as well. I would really love to see this end-to-end workflow. I think all of us have experienced a part of it in bits and pieces, I guess, like doing one piece at a time, but not in the connected cell. I think I would love to see that when this kind of connectedness is there, and then AI is there to kind of be there as an assistant to us, where we can apply ourselves on more strategic value and let AI do all the kind of help us out on the brainstorming, doing some grunt work as well, doing the documentation and all. So I would love to experience that one day soon, and I'm sure we'll get to it over the Axelerant as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabreena, Panshul, and Abhishek for being there for this third episode. I think the only one that is remaining right now in this series is about how do we build and launch these replatforming projects, which we will cover in our next episode. So till then, thank you.
Thank you.
And see you again in our next episode.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.